Ms. Sherman, I want to ask you about our sanctions strategy. This country is committed to making sure that Iran does not develop a nuclear weapon and to protecting our allies in the region, including Israel. As a country, there's a broad consensus that we should keep all options open and on the table, but that a negotiated solution is far superior to war. Now, a recent report from the Bipartisan Iran Project, a group of former diplomats and national security experts, has identified how a system of sanctions work. They describe it as strong sanctions are a stick that gets the Iranians to the negotiating table, and once they come to the table and start negotiating, strong sanctions are a carrot. That is, we can remove those sanctions in exchange for Iran giving up a nuclear program. That means for our sanctions strategy to work, it has to be possible not only to put sanctions in place, but also to take them away if the Iranians want to make a deal. If the sanctions can't be easily reversed, that is, if they face sanctions no matter what, then the Iranians won't give up their nuclear program. So I support tough, strong sanctions because I think they're necessary to make the strategy work. But what I want to know, Ms. Sherman, is whether you're confident that the sanctions that are currently in place are structured so that the administration can reverse those sanctions as part of reaching a negotiated agreement.
Thank you, Senator. It's a very, actually quite sophisticated and important question. We have spent a considerable amount of time in preparing for the P5+1 negotiations to look at every single sanction and figure out what we would do and how we could indeed take them off. Some are easier than others. All of them could ultimately be removed either by executive action or congressional action, but of course it's preferable that there be a way within the existing legislation or the existing EO to do so as opposed to having to pass new legislation to accomplish that. So your point is extremely well taken, and as Undersecretary Cohen said in the last P5+1 negotiation, for the first time, Iran was very, very vocal about its desire to have sanctions removed, particularly financial and oil sanctions, which are, of course, connected to each other in terms of viability. And we are not in any rush, of course, to remove any sanction until we see concrete, verifiable results that can be monitored and cannot be reversed.
Well, I very much appreciate that. I'm sure you've seen the report from the International Crisis Group in which they had looked at sanctions, evaluated those sanctions in terms of how easy it would be to remove them on a scale of 1 to 4, and found that of the congressional, all 9 of the laws we've passed are Category 4, 4 being the toughest to reverse, and that of the executive orders, 7 have been codified and are also now rated as a 4, very tough to reverse. I raise this because I think it's something we need to focus on. The goal is to keep Iran from developing nuclear weapons, and I support strong sanctions because I think they're necessary to make this strategy work. But if the Iranians see that the sanctions can't be lifted, then they will be only more firmly entrenched in pursuing nuclear weapons. In other words, badly designed sanctions might actually increase the likelihood of Iran getting a nuclear weapon or increase the likelihood of war. We have broad consensus in this country that we would prefer a negotiated solution in the Middle East, and if badly designed sanctions are going to increase the likelihood of Iran developing a nuclear weapon, then we need to focus on now how to fix that. So thank you very much.